All right, the list of things that I did not like. I think you start with the 3 turnovers. That is the number one reason they lost the game. -3 almost always equals a loss, and that was your ball game. The first interception by Jaden was a throw that he's made, but he was late on it, and the Bears sniffed it out. Brisker makes a nice play. They had 9 takeaways coming into the game. They now have 12, and they got this one early in the game. It took points off the board for Washington. They're at least going to get 3. They had driven it 8 plays, 44 yards on their first drive to the Chicago 21. So they're going to get points if they don't turn it over. Jaden was late with the throw. Easy pick. He just was late. He's got the arm strength. He's made that throw before the receiver even gets to the spot. He's thrown with great anticipation, great velocity. He was late on that throw. Bill Krosky-Merritt, fumble, second time in 2 games, first and 10 on their own 35-yard line. Montez Sweat knocked the ball out. Look, if he's going to be, as many of you believe, the next Emmitt Smith, which is a bit of a reach, a couple of games into his career, just saying, you can't fumble twice in 2 weeks. We don't know about this right now. This could be a problem. And if it is a problem, he won't ever get the opportunity to be great if that's what he's going to end up being as a runner. Look, he still had a couple of good runs in the game. There were still a couple of runs. I'm like, look at that lateral vision and that quickness and that the feet and the cut ability. And he almost got hit for about a 3-yard loss and was able to get out of that and turn it into a win. But fumbling is a problem. So that was the second turnover. And that led to a touchdown. 5 plays later, the Bears are in the end zone on Caleb's keeper, and it's 13-0. And then the last turnover, look, already talked about it. It was on Jaden, period. He said lack of focus, whatever it was, you have to be better in the elements. You've got to protect the football, especially in a close game, a 2-point game. That there is a better chance when the ball is wet of something going wrong. You got to handle it accordingly. The ball never got into Krosky-Merritt's gut. That one is totally on number 5. Totally. 3 turnovers in the game. The last one, just an absolute deadly turnover, as they are 1 first down away from icing the game. 1. Now, if they get the first down, 1 additional after that one. It was 3rd and 1. If they get the first down there, they are 1 more first down away from taking knees and winning 24-22. 3 turnovers is the reason they lost the game more than anything else. And Jaden had 2 of the 3. He played pretty well outside of those 2 out of 3. If he only commits the first one, they win the game more likely than not. But his 2 turnovers clearly cost the team. That's number 1 on the list of things that I didn't like, the 3 turnovers. Number 2, I could just say the defense. I'll start, though, specifically with the run defense. It was alarmingly awful. It was so reminiscent of last year. And what makes it worse is Chicago was a bad running team coming into this game. We talked about, this matchup, at least on paper, and things change, and they had a bye week, and they changed some things up offensively and defensively. But number 1 rush offense against basically the worst rush defense, and an improving rush defense, top half of the league going into the game against one of the worst rush offenses. Yeah, not last night. Chicago had great upfront, blocking. There were gaping holes. The edge was never held. Swift had the biggest night, but number 25, the backup, had some good runs as well. DJ Moore, Caleb participated. 27 carries for 145 yards as a team, 5.4 yards per carry, and Swift leading the way, 14-108. Again, I said in the open, this is the second time Ben Johnson in as many games against Washington where he hasn't, in my opinion, run the ball enough. Last year, Jahmyr Gibbs getting 14 carries was criminal. That game probably does not end up with the same result if Gibbs gets 20 to 25 carries in that game. when he was averaging 10 yards a carry. And last night, Swift, 14 carries. Are you going to tell me that if he had gotten another 6, he would have worn down? He wasn't touched a lot of the night. Like, they had 29 pass attempts. If you count maybe a couple of scrambles, like 31 pass attempts, like 25 rush attempts, when your number one back is going for 7.7 yards per carry. I like Ben Johnson as a designer, as a play caller, but we've had 2 experiences on the other side where he had something that could not be stopped, and for some reason decided to try to play other hands. And again, I'll get to the final drive, but what Swift did on that final drive was emasculating to Washington's defense. Really, really gross to watch. The pass defense this week, not as much of a pass rush as last week. And so when you're not very good on the back end, and this team clearly is not, they can't, they don't see the problem right now defensively is they don't have a game plan for defensive player. They don't have a game-wrecking defensive lineman or edge rusher, and they don't have a lockdown corner. That's a tough spot to be in. And then on top of it, you got issues with tackling. You got issues with communication. I didn't see the same issues with communication. There was one with Lattimore and Quan Martin on Adunze's 21-yard catch. It looked like Lattimore was pointing in one direction, and they got kind of picked off. Maybe it was more about what I think DJ Moore did. But, they're just not great at covering. People were open all night long. And look, this was not a good game by Caleb Williams. Honestly, he's inaccurate, and that's part of his issue. He makes some plays, and I like the way he competes personally, but he's not a consistent, accurate thrower. He just isn't. He misses people a lot. He's been doing that since he's come into the league. And I guarantee you that Ben Johnson's back there going, look over here. We had DJ wide open. If you'd come back over here to Zacchaeus, wide open. There was a play in which he took the fourth down throw that they converted. Adunze's running wide open behind the defense. Now, that's a 50-50 call kind of at that point. I don't even know where the biggest issues are. I think Sanderstill's the biggest issue in coverage more than anybody else right now, at least through 6 games. Amos has had some good moments. Lattimore, obviously not. Quan Martin, not so much. The pass defense, if you're not gonna get the pass rush they got last week, and by the way, the return of Darnell Wright at right tackle for Chicago, he was on the injury report. I thought he was pretty good in the game for them. Washington's got a problem pass defense-wise. I don't know how you fix it because you don't have somebody that can change the game as a pass rusher, and you don't have a lockdown cover guy. It's a bad spot to be in. And then if you're going to be bad against the run, as they were last night, and they haven't been bad against the run this year, you're in a heap of trouble. I mean, we're back to last year in many ways where you're going to have to put up, 30 and possess the ball like they did last year to win all those games. Next up on the things that I did not like list. This is a little bit, I'm putting it on this list of bad because of what the expectations were. The expectations were number 1 rush offense, number 31 rush defense, number 32 rush defense in yards allowed per carry, and they didn't run the ball well enough. Krosky Merritt under 4 yards per carry. He had a couple of good runs, 17 for 61, though. The expectation was for another 200-yard rushing night. Now, I'll give Chicago some credit. They loaded the box a lot more than they had done in the first 4 games, and there was an emphasis on we can't get run on to the tune of 200 yards. We can't win the game doing that. So they made some adjustments during the bye week, but still the expectation and the result far different. Slow start, I mentioned that. Matt Gay missed a field goal. No takeaways, I've already mentioned that. I thought the offensive line didn't do a great job against some of their blitz pressure, and I think they saw more of it than maybe they expected. And then, there were 2 drives. I've already talked a lot about the last drive. Again, embarrassing 3rd and 5, easy to Loveland. That's a joke. And then Swift, basically moving them into field goal range on 5 carries for 34 yards. When you've got to force Jake Moody, not a very good kicker, into something much longer than 38 yards. You got to step up there. They might not have the capability of stepping up. I thought the other drive that really hurt the team, up 24-22, they started their own 40 after another great McCaffrey kickoff return. This was after the Swift touchdown and the missed 2-point conversion. And then they punted after getting a roughing the passer penalty and a 1st and 10 at the Chicago 39. They punted 3 plays, 0 yards. They didn't gain a yard. You got to get some yardage there so you at least have a chance to add 3 and make the lead 5. That was a disappointing offensive drive. They moved the ball pretty much at will for much of the night. They really did when they had the opportunity, but that was a bad punt time. That was a bad time for a punt. Brisker gets the roughing the passer for going low on Jaden, and you've got a 1st and 10 with 8:48 to go at the Chicago 39, up 24-22. You've got to add to the lead there. Have to. Yeah.